Awesome. All right. Here with Vojtěch, or is it Vojtěch?
Wojciech.
Vojtěch.
Don't try. It's
All right.
pointless.
All right. I'm here with the guy who made all of the Melda plugins, which are some of my favorite plugins. And so I'm stoked to chat with you. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
No biggie. My pleasure.
So I watched an interview of yours last night whilst preparing for this one. And you mentioned that you initially created plugins out of necessity to like solve your own music problems.
Yeah.
Can you talk about like what some of those problems were?
Yeah. So I was on the university, on the college, and I essentially was a drummer, but I wanted to make music like from keyboards and stuff. And the problem is, if you are on a college, you have no money, and like recording drums is kind of a problem. So what I did is create a first drummer, because I had no idea that some drummers actually exist, like the virtual drummers. So for me, it was like, tabula rasa. I had no idea what's out there. And I was like many years Cubase user, but I just didn't really know the ecosystem. And it's quite possible that since it was like 2002 or something, that maybe there was actually no virtual drummer, and I was right. Who knows? But anyways, I was used to do something meaningful for school projects. So I chose this, and I make myself a virtual drummer, very primitive one, and it was good enough for me a little bit, sort of. And then there was this friend, not really a friend, but the guy who thought a lot about himself and told me, "Man, you never finish anything, and let's just finish the MDrummer and sell it. I know this guy who has samples and shit." Yeah, nothing from him, obviously, but I spent some time with it, and I felt like, okay, I spent so much time with it, I should try myself. And then it was like really a rocky road, because I was young and stupid, like really stupid, and I basically fucked up pretty much everything I could. But eventually, it kind of started working, and I, in a way, thought that I'm going to make MDrummer, and that's it. Virtual drummer machine. That's me. Okay, whatever. And now I think like MDrummer, it's like 2% of the income of the company. So it was really weird. But I mean, like, luck is needed, and I think I had luck. I got the right ideas at the right time. I got the right bad people at the right time, and I made the right bad mistakes at the right time, and eventually it sort of started working.
What did you study at university or college?
Informatics, so basically programming. But it wasn't really programming for, Charles University, so like the top university here, and it likes to proud itself by being highly theoretical and top of the type and whatnot. So mostly it was full of mathematics and stuff like that. But lots of it was interesting at the end. I just didn't know it yet at some point.
Yeah, I mean, that checks out. Your plugins, the first time I ever used them, I was like, what the fuck is this interface? And I started playing with it. And the more that when I first saw it, I was like, it looks like old computer, like it looks like Windows 95 shit. But the more I played with them, I feel like I'm still learning things about them. I use Melda plugins literally every day, and once a week I'll find out some new use for them. Yeah, thanks for that.
It was like
insane.
Always like this for me. The way I worked my whole life is that whenever I do something, not necessarily in music and stuff, I usually try to find a way how to sort of generalize it in a way, I guess, so that I can use it in the future somehow. So that I'm used to make complex things, and I hate learning other people's complex things. So yeah, I get those people who don't like to learn Melda complex things. On the other hand, we tried to make things simpler over the years, so hopefully now it's kind of more accessible, at least.
Yeah, I noticed like when you open a Melda plugin, you've kind of got like the noob window is like the first thing you see, where it's got like actual interfaces and just like knobs that do shit. But then you can very quickly get into the weeds with it if you want to. I'm curious, it seemed like when you started making plugins, you were making them to solve your own problems. These days, do you find that you're making plugins more for other people, or are you still always just making them for yourself?
And now it's quite a lot for other people. I mean, over the years, when I started, I did it for myself because I had some issues which I needed to solve. I didn't know about any other solution for my stuff, and I was kind of curious. Actually, can I do it, and what can I like contribute to the world? And when I started, and it started to be successful, people noticed that I'm the guy who makes things happen. So they started bombarding me with feature requests. And I started saying kind of yes to everything. And in the beginning, it was interesting because every feature request opened my eyes. It was like, okay, I can do that, man. That is cool. But at some point, it started being like weird because there were like contradictory ideas. Someone wanted that and considered other feature B absolute nonsense, which like shouldn't be there. And then another user had the exact opposite view. So I started being picky. So yeah, but anyways, big part of the software, I think, like it's now made for people for their uses. But if I'm starting making something new, I always like to use my own ideas, So if there is something that I need, that it has a priority. That's true.
So you mentioned back in the day you would kind of get ideas and feature requests from, I assume it was like KVR or something, right?
Yeah.
Like the forums. How do you, like, what metric do you use these days to anticipate what you think others might need?
Well, people are asking. So actually, it's more like selecting the right task to make. Because if you'd see my to-do list, I mean, you would probably vomit because it's never ending, Originally, I had priorities. So there was high priority, medium priority, low priority, which was basically never made because I never even got to that point. And then there was this like, I don't give a shit priority. And I kind of logged in all of the feature requests, even if I thought like, oh, okay, this is probably not going to happen, because you never know, at some point you may figure out like, okay, it made sense. So from time to time, I read through the list and try to select something. But the problem is, it got so big and the high priority got so long that it was depressing. So now there's new high priority. It's basically what I'm working on, and then there's this high priority, which is actually kind of like a medium priority. So, yeah. So, selecting ideas is the problem. Having new ideas is not a problem. Really, I have so many ideas of myself which I would like to make through, and I may not ever have time to do that, but I still hope. Yeah.
Is there anything ever that is on that low priority list for the reason that you just don't think it'll be useful for anyone and that it's not going to add that much value or whatever, but it just seems like a fun programming problem to solve, and so it makes it to the high priority list for that reason?
I don't think so. I always want something practical out of it. So essentially, I look at the stuff and I think like, okay, do I need this? If I do need this, yeah, it's going up. If if it seems that many people are going to need this, then yeah, it goes high priority. If it looks like, okay, some person's weird fantasy when he was like high or something, then it goes really low. So yeah, that's basically it. And I mean, I can probably check what's in there, and it may be interesting. Just give me a sec.
Yeah, of course.
So there's a lot working on, a lot of high priority, but let's check the low stuff. Yeah, so micro tuning nonsense. Yeah. I was actually, this one is very
micro tuning is low priority.
Yeah, it's fuck off priority, because the thing is, this is actually really interesting. Actually, I can see now stuff that, yeah, and I also put the stuff that it's nearly impossible to implement there. So that's another thing. But
micro tuning is there for that reason, because you think it's hard to implement?
No. Micro tuning is there because I believe it's a complete nonsense. It's essentially I have micro tuning there, but some third-party company came up with a standard, which they call it
scalar. Is the scalar format?
No.
.tun or whatever it is.
Maybe, I don't know. But anyways, it's about changing the micro tunings on the fly with some messages. And I think it's fucking nonsense. I mean, okay, tuning, good stuff. 99.99% of users will never get to tuning. They basically don't even like scale it upwards or downwards. They just don't need to. I think 99.99 is actually highly understated. Something like
it's like one person on the planet probably that wants it or something. Aphex Twin, and that's about it.
And the thing is, I have heard some of the creations of people who use the micro tunings, like the beat micro tunings. And the music was so unbelievably impossible to listen to.
Right.
I was like, okay, no way I'm going to contribute to that. It's just for me, this will never have any meaning. I mean, like, there's so much to explore and learn with normal tuning, like with nothing on top of it. So this whole thing is. And then changing it on the fly is no. So that's an example of a fuck off priority, and actually it's called like that. Nice. And so what's there with low priority, for instance? I need to even understand. Like mouse cursor on macOS changes in plugin manager and plugins under Cubase and Logic. Yeah, that's.
What does that even mean? Is that just a bug or something, or?
The thing is, I have been called Apple hater on KVR. And
are you an Apple hater?
Let's fuck. Yeah, I mean, if you are a Mac user, then. I mean, it's okay. You can browse web and shit like that. But once you start getting deep into the actual situation, the kernel of this whole thing, it's so fucked up. It's so unbelievably fucked up.
In what sense do you mean?
In every sense. It looks like there was this guy in the garage somewhere making an operation system by taking Unix and doing his own shit on top of it. And it seems like the guy is on drugs, because every year it's something different. And Apple just says, yeah, okay, you programmers redo all your shit to our new standard, because this is the new standard and it's much, much better. It's revolutionary and shit. And it's not. It's shit. It's just that before it was even bigger shit. And Apple just really likes to make our lives horrible. Unfortunately, I outsourced Apple completely now. I have a guy for it. And I mean, it took him like a week to really appreciate how horrible the stuff is. And I have another guy who is really smart and makes plugins and stuff. And he just kind of touched the Mac stuff, and he was like, "Oh man, how is this even possible?" And it's like,
what is a tangible example though? Like, and I assume you're on Windows or Linux, or
yeah, I have Windows.
So what is a tangible example of something that's just so much easier to get done on Windows than on Mac?
No, well, essentially everything. And I mean, like, the thing is, Windows has this API for doing the shit on the system, and it's like really old school. But the beauty about it is that they designed it with lots of sense in their head. They thought about the future, and they never broke anything in the past. So essentially, when a new Windows versions came up, I was almost certain I don't even need to test it. It was just working. When they decided to come up with some new feature because, I don't know, something new in the world of software happened, they just extended the SDK they already made. What Apple did is the exact opposite. They always say like, okay, we are calling this deprecated, and you now need to use something different. And by different, they even lowered the bar so low that actually they forced us to use different programming languages, which are stupid. I mean, yeah, Apple, if you are watching this, Objective-C is fucking stupid. And they kind of trashed it now for Swift, which is another language. And I think there is perhaps one more language now. And it's full of that, you know. And when I started, there was this GUI system for this Carbon ecosystem. When I started, it was already deprecated. And there was another GUI system built on top of it. But if you are a plugin developer, you have to adjust to all the DAWs. And the problem is, you don't know what the DAW is going to use. So you have to differentiate between two different GUIs. And then they trashed it again, all of it, and came up with yet another GUI system in a different language. So right now, you have to have implementations of 3 different GUI systems just to provide the exact same functionality, you know. So that's kind of the typical example. Every time they come up with a new revolutionary Mac OS, which is exactly the same as before, it fucks up something. So here we cannot really say, okay, a new Mac OS, yeah, they came up with this new update for, I don't know, FaceTime or whatever they are using in that. So it's probably not so related to us. It's probably going to work. No, they, for example, fuck up all, how is it called, permissions for our files. So we had some system in there. We needed to set the permissions so that everything works. You know, it's always really difficult to figure out what you have to set. And then they just create a new macOS, and if the macOS is upgraded from a certain kind of architecture, it changes the permission so nothing works anymore, and stuff like that. And it's full of this shit. So it's crazy.
So I'm assuming, like, in general, you build your plugins on Windows and then you have to like port them over to Mac. If you built your plugins on Mac, would they just move over to Windows perfectly, or would you still have the same problem of having to deal with 2 systems?
Not really. I think part of this Apple scheme is about kind of stealing people from Windows. and stealing software from Windows. I mean, like right now, it's still like 10% of software is on Mac. There is a good reason for that. Just Apple doesn't see it, apparently. And if you build something on macOS, they are kind of forcing you to use their tools, their programming languages, their SDKs, and make it nearly impossible to fit it anywhere else. So the thing is, I made as my diploma thesis like this big SDK for cross-platform system of GUIs and file systems and threading and everything. So I was like really ahead of everyone when I started, because this was kind of my bread and butter, and so I was like really knowledgeable about Linux and Windows and macOS, and I knew kind of what the labyrinth is, and it was really easy to figure out what's the optimal way for development is, and that's doing it on Windows. It's just how it is. You do it on Windows, and if you have the SDK planned well enough, basically everything kind of works. That's kind of how I was able to make all those plugins in such little time, because I kind of made everything really simple for me ahead. Every time I developed something, I knew I'm going to probably at some point use that part of what I was developing on something else. So I was adjusting to that, and and the SDK for the cross-platform system is part of all these ideas.
That's what. Do you still use that to build Melda stuff cross-platform? Yeah. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. But basically, right now, since a colleague of mine is handling macOS, he is only handling the problems, and he has his hands full. Still, I mean, like nobody needed to like fix anything on Windows for years. Yeah, there was this high DPI, HDPI thingy. This is the thing that everyone fucked up. It's about when you have multiple displays and each of them has a different DPI. I mean, I don't know how is it possible that everyone fucked it up so much, but it's fucked up on macOS and it's fucked up on Windows too. Yeah, but other than that, nothing. But on macOS, it's all the time. And when I'm developing something, I basically don't touch system services at all. I just use the library I made.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, all of the code is, I assume, written in C++.
Yeah.
That C++ would just compile and run on any computer the same, you would think. But I guess not.
C++ is it's a minefield, I would say. Right. I mean, like when I started, it was a minefield. Right now, they are trying to, right now for like 2 decades, they are trying to make some sort of system, some sort of libraries built in C++ to make things happen. But it's still a minefield. Not so bad, but it's still every time you need to like add a library. Like right now, a friend of mine was adding support for HTTPS, like for secure communications with the servers. It was a nightmare for him. He was like crying all the time. Sorry, Martin, if he watches it. But he was, and I can understand why, So it's kind of difficult with C++. It's not like Java when you make it work and it works everywhere. But that's because it's interpreted. C++ is different. You just have to know what system you are on and kind of survive. It can be fairly difficult. It's not really only about like, okay, open a file, read something from the file. It's way more difficult than that. And when it comes to GUI, is the most difficult part, I think, because everyone got it wrong in the beginning. Right. It evolves.
Yeah, I'm curious. Considering you developed your own custom framework rather than using something like Juice.
Yeah.
What was the main advantages and challenges that you encountered building that?
Well, I mean, that would be difficult to answer because
Sure.
I mean there were challenges all the way, but I mean like my biggest challenges were, well, first of all, the huge advantage I have using my own framework is that I can change it whenever I like. When you are using Juice, you have Juice, and that's it. You can change it. If something is broken, you have to ask Juice to fix it. And Juice cannot really change the structure of the framework itself. Otherwise, they would be another
break
Apple.
everything.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest challenges I had over the years, except for macOS and trying to make it work on there, because that would be nothing, was when I fucked up myself something. And maybe it's not like fucking up myself. It's more about I didn't think through hard enough. Because sometimes even when I'm generalizing as much as I'm used to, I just don't foresee the future hard enough. And at some point, I may figure it, okay, so I need this feature, but it would take me forever, and I would replicate the same code I already made, and it's so entangled in the whole library that so a few times, I think it was like 3 times, I did a restructuralization. Impossible word. Anyway, I hope you know what I mean. I basically took the intestines and changed them in the lowest level. I'm no kidding when I say that I wasn't able to compile anything for a half a year. And during the entire half year, I was basically working in my head and changing the code and hoping that at some point it would all start to make sense. I mean, now I'm 42 and I would have no chance doing that again. I'm far too stupid at this point.
Do you feel like your coding has gotten worse as you've gotten older or better?
I think coding got better, but overall the intelligence and the ability to, I would say,
like the amount of effort you have to put in has gone down.
Yeah, I guess it takes me really like lots of juice. And not the juice, the SDK. Maybe that's how they meant it. It will take your juice anyway. So yeah, it's hard for me now to think hard and to understand new technologies. And you know, they told us on the university, get used to the brain while you can, and just invent all the new stuff now when you can. From your 30s is only going to go down, and they were right. So yeah.
How modular is your framework in practice, and how do you future-proof it to avoid making technical choices now that might cause problems down the line? Do you change it much these days, or is it kind of set in stone now? Or
it's actually kind of the question I was just talking about right now. I don't always got it perfectly future-proof, and when that happens, it's bad. Yeah. But
what are some examples of like stuff that you've put into the framework at one point that's caused a big problem later?
If I remember, the last one was about modularity. Basically, what I had was this concept of a plugin, like this object of a plugin. Let's call it an object, and it knew how to get audio in, how to send audio out, how to create some parameters, how to automate them, and stuff like that. And at some point, I figured, okay, then now it would be really cool if I could put plugins inside plugins. And this has lots of challenges, and especially if you get to instruments where each plugin can have multiple states of the same settings, and even changing the settings while being a single plugin. It was really difficult to explain. But what I had to do is just reorganize the entire concept of a plugin. There are like this. The thing is full of multi-threading issues, and this is one of the biggest things nobody realizes when you are making simple plugins, like basically everyone out there. Unless you get modular, it's all simple. You have some audio in, you put some audio out, and you have some parameters. And usually when they are working with Juice or something, the framework itself does most of the hard work for you. But when you get to the modular stuff, when things are communicating through each other, up and down, and any thread can change anything, it gets like a real mind boggle. So yeah,
I bet. How do you like I can imagine you have just this huge, massive, like you said, shit like communicating up and down on different threads and whatnot. How do you isolate a problem? Like if you come up with a problem and you're just like, shit, nothing works. Like how do you stop isolating each bit to be like, which part is the part that's fucking shit up?
Well, it depends. Sometimes you have a problem like, okay, now it crashes. And if you can simulate it, then in 90% chances, 90% cases, it's simple. You just look at the code and see like, I fucked up. Okay. And so you fix it. And often these are like these really stupid mistakes where just one missing character, like you missed a dot somewhere, you know, and yeah, this is what you get. And this is one case. Another case is when it crashes and it absolutely makes no sense. These are like sometimes really difficult. I mean, every programmer advanced enough probably survived this. And it may take like 2 days when you are like stepping through the code and just analyzing what the hell is wrong. And then eventually after 2 days, you figure out it wasn't wrong. Something completely different was wrong somewhere else, something, and sometimes it wasn't even you. We had this issue with Waves plugins at some point, where somehow Waves plugins found addresses of our plugins and changed something. I still can't imagine how it was possible to do that, because the
was that just like an accident, or like is that just like kind of a freak occurrence type thing?
It was an accident. The worst mistakes you can make in C++, and this is basically the most difficult part of the C++ at all, is there is nothing keeping you from doing, well, anything. You can write to any part of the memory. That's the typical case. Even the part that doesn't exist, or the part that doesn't belong to you. And normally when you are making an application, like when you are making a DAW, it's much easier. You are basically choosing your own ecosystem. You are selecting the right GUI format for Macs. You are selecting what kind of files you are going to use, what kind of permissions you need. And you kind of own the memory space. And when something gets fucked, then you know it's probably you. But when you are a plugin, then you are a slave to something. And there are all these other slaves. And it's possible that the slave writes into a memory it owned before, for example, and it released it, and you got it. And somehow this slave wrote to that memory, and yeah, that just happened, and sorry, dude. And it takes 2 days before you figure out, okay, well, it wasn't me. But usually it is me. So this is like a freakish accident. And I don't think it happens anymore because in 64 bits, the chances are near zero. So I believe it was still in the 32-bit environment, which is so long time ago. And right now, when this happens, you may just figure out, like, never. You know, I had bugs that I never figured out, and they disappeared. Why?
Really?
I don't know.
It's wild.
And in the beginning, I was like really frustrated and scared of it because I knew like my plugins are used in some Hollywood studios and shit, and they really can't afford something crashing. So when something is crashing, then I want to mitigate it. But you know, I believe there were one or two cases when I just didn't figure it out, and nobody ever made it happen again. So who knows?
That's weird. How do you decide when to innovate, like to make new things and like, you know, try to create like new technologies versus when do you decide to refine existing stuff? Like, how do you make that choice?
I don't think these two things are necessarily different. I mean, okay, when you are making an equalizer, right? Let's say you are starting a new plugin company. Bad idea, by the way, right now. And you want to make a new equalizer. Then you probably need to come up with something new. And that new is going to be fairly difficult to find out because, you know, everyone was making equalizers. So pretty much everything has already been invented. And I mean, I like to kind of think it this way. Sometimes an idea pops in, well, probably in, right? And I'm thinking like, yeah, okay, this is interesting. I want to try that. That's basically a new concept, and it's the most fun thing, I think, because you know you are exploring the new territories. And other times I feel like, okay, there's this plugin, and I really like what it does, but it kind of sucks. So yeah, I want to make that happen in Melda ecosystem, not only so that people can use it, being Melda, because I was always aiming like to make an ecosystem so that you just would need Melda, and that's it. Because I also like to use just my plugins. You know, that's how I work. But usually when I have this thing I want to sort of clone, an awful lot of ideas immediately came to me. So it's more like diversifying what makes sense, what would really be useful, and what really wouldn't. So
yeah. Do you ever feel pressured by market trends to release plugins before you feel like they're fully developed?
I wouldn't say by market trends. I was pressurizing myself and by my users, you know, because I, in some points, got into this weird psycho system where everyone was asking for something, and I had this feeling that I need to make that happen. So people were coming with feature requests for plugins and stuff like that, and I always felt like, yeah, I have to make it happen and as soon as possible. And yeah, it's really not healthy. Ended up with a nervous breakdown. So yeah, but I wouldn't say like the market like pressurized me or something for that.
Just kind of like your own anxiety of like, shit, I need to get something out for no particular reason.
Yeah. And I think like it's true for most successful people. I mean, just look at Elon Musk. I mean, the guy is crazy from the first sight, you know. So, yeah. And by the way, I'm a Tesla owner, so.
Yeah. So initially Melda was entirely just a one-man project.
Yeah.
And you obviously have like a clear personal vision for what you want your plugins to be. Now that you're working with ImageLine, I think acquired you, right? How is Melda changed? Is it still kind of mostly just you and a couple other people, or does ImageLine kind of have a lot of influence on what you're doing?
Yeah, it's in the beginning when I got bored, I thought, okay, this is beautiful. We are going to have so much support. We will have the best marketing. We will have the support team and lots of programmers and shit. But they will probably be telling me what should I do, right? None of it is true. So basically, absolutely nothing changed. Well, one thing changed. I got my slaves now. I called my, how to call employees. So the guys who are working for me, yeah, that wasn't before. I had before people for support and marketing and stuff, but I never had other programmers. Quite honestly, I got into the same trap many people got, into the feeling that I cannot have anyone because I wouldn't ever be satisfied with them. The thing is, at some point, I realized now I'm unable to handle it anymore. There was so much problems with macOS. There was so much problems with, or more like stuff that needed to be done with installers and with adding new instruments and with all the releases. And I knew I just needed someone. And I still wasn't like completely sure that someone could fulfill my expectations. And guess what? Now I have two of them. So
and you're happy with the work that they're doing?
Yeah, it's working with people. It's something that one needs to learn. So in the beginning, I was like angry all the time. I'm not angry. I was just, you spend some time figuring out what a certain person is good at and is bad at. And as a chief, you have to figure out how to handle that. So I now know what tasks I need to give to the two slaves I have. And now it works nicely. And it's always a minefield. I mean, working with people is always a minefield. But, it's constant learning. And it's in a way fun. And the great thing about it is that the stuff that I would have to do is now going to someone else. And I can do other stuff, which I'm more interested in, which is great.
Yeah, great. Does being affiliated with a larger company like ImageLine ever influence your decisions about like what product you're going to make next, or design choices or development choices or anything? Or is it kind of still all you and they just kind of like own the company as part of their shell company or something?
They quite don't give a shit, I would say. I mean, the thing is, ImageLine is like any corporate, owned by a board of directors and stuff. And there's this complicated structure where the highest level of people is essentially only interested in money. So the top part of the under the board, the guys, the executive officers, as they call it, they need to make that happen. And the reality is, the FL Studio itself is the biggest seller by far. Because everyone needs a DAW. That is how it is. But plugins, yeah,
kind of optional. They're more like luxuries.
Yeah, kind of. It does a big chunk of difference, or whatever. It really makes a big difference if you use good plugins. And I don't know of any DAW which has good plugins incorporated in it, but you can survive without it. And most people out there just want to make music quickly without no no training, no knowledge.
Well, it's more fun that way.
No talent, even. Like,
yeah, that's when it's the most fun. Is making music quickly without much effort, but the results are good. You're like, fuck yeah, I did it. Quick dopamine release.
and that's the thing, that they are focusing on that. All this is usually teenagers. They immediately see themselves as like another David Guetta and stuff. Not that I would like that, but whatever. And right now it's even getting crazier with all the artificial intelligences and shit. So, but anyways, so the FL is really designed for that, and they are making all they can to make this happen, to make the majority of the users like happy. But Melda is on a different spot, So all the companies they acquired are actually on different spot. So they kind of let us do our things. The only time where they care is when there is budget involved. So, for example, recently we started sampling orchestra, like symphonic orchestra, and it's a big project. I mean, it costs fuckload of money, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and stuff. And before, I always knew I'm going to sample orchestra at some point. And before, when I had the budget, the money in the company, and I always had it, kind of, in a way, and I had time, I would say like, okay, let's do this. And now it's quite more complicated because I had to make the vision, write it on the paper, and extrapolate how much money it would earn and how much money it would cost. And let's face it, it's crystal ball. I have no idea how much money it will earn. So yeah, but
you just have to like make up a bunch of hypothetical situations and be like, this could happen this way. Yeah.
So everything is much more complicated in this matter. But it's kind of rare situation. Other than that, they kind of let us do whatever we want to do, which is great.
Has the idea ever been floated to integrate Melda plugins directly into FL to like make their DAW sales go up even more by adding more value to the DAW? Or is that something that you're for or against? Or
I'm for. I mean, I sold the company. So right now, in a way, I don't care how much it earns. In a way, I obviously want to earn money because they are pressurizing us.
So to be clear, ImageLine owns Melda and you just work for ImageLine now, or you work for Melda, which is a part of ImageLine?
Yeah, that. And
okay, gotcha.
It's like a big group, and it's like a pyramid, and we are in the lowest level. And essentially what we earn goes to ImageLine. But you would be really surprised how complicated it gets. I mean, just sending money from one company to another is apparently a difficult thing. Recently, we had $1 million just lying there on our account, and nobody cared. And we asked the bosses, like, okay, so should we reinvest it or put it somewhere else? I mean, Donald Trump is going to be elected, so it's probably going down. And it is.
Right.
And they said, like, we are not investment company, so just leave it there.
But it's doing nothing. What's the point?
Yeah, I don't understand, all that. And most of these things in the corporate world, I just don't understand. Everything is so overcomplicated and seems like nothing is done at the end. But anyways, it's true that $1 million is not that much for them if you calculate the whole earnings of the group. So, I mean, they probably don't care. I would care. Right. Anyways,
so what was
right now for me, it's more about like spreading the plugins. I mean, I made something. I gave a lot of blood and tears into something. So I want as many people as possible to use it and be happy about it. So that's my main kind of like motto right now. And so if it would be integrated in FL, it would certainly help it. But the problem is they have some specific plans. I mean, we have been discussing it a long time ago. It was a no at the end. So
fair enough. What was the original reason that you decided to sell the company to ImageLine? It seems like the work has gotten a little more frustrating. There's more red tape and all of this kind of stuff. And obviously there's some benefits too, like maybe they can pay for you to record this like orchestra and whatnot. But what was the attractive part of it that made you go like, okay, this is a good idea. I'm going to sell the company to ImageLine?
Yeah, it's first of all, obviously money. If you sell the company, then you get money that is proportional to amount you sell per year or something. So yeah, that's one thing. But mainly, it was my nerves, quite honestly. I had a nervous breakdown several years before. I knew it's kind of, I was burned out with all the stuff I had to care about. And now this was the opportunity to get more people on board and dedicating some of the work. So that's kind of the thing, you know. Right now, I only have to care about developing my shit and managing the guys. And I mean, I don't mind managing people. It's fun in a way, I would say. It's making decisions and shit, like making plans or whatever. And what I program is mostly what I want. So now I'm working on the mixing revolution. I have been like talking about, like
I've heard
8
about
years,
this, yeah.
I think.
I have some questions about this too.
Yeah. And I mean, many people don't even believe it's real. And I can't blame them. But the thing is, I got into the status where I couldn't even dedicate 5 minutes to this. It's just impossible for me. So when I sold it, I got new people on board, and there are still stuff I have to maintain and other projects I'm working on. But I finally have some time to work on this one as well. So before it was impossible. So that's the thing. And also, like when you own a company, there's always this exclamation mark on top of you. Like, is this going to last another year, another 2 years, another 10 years? Who knows?
Right. Yeah. Who knows like what AI is going to do, and maybe that'll change the game completely. Yeah. And then, I do want to talk about this mixing revolution thing though. The general gist of it, as I understand it, is it's going to be a plugin or like a software system that's capable of automating a lot of the tedious, repetitive aspects of mixing, which will hopefully enable musicians and producers to mix their stuff faster, like a one-click maybe thing that'll just mix everything for you. Can you describe your vision for what this will look like?
I don't want to,
Okay,
because there's a lot of, I wouldn't say know-how, but lots of ideas which most people apparently didn't have. The one why I wanted to start it in the first place. Once upon a time, I was mixing some of my music, and it was so pathetically long and difficult process, and I was never like happy with the results. And I knew like every song is different. It was for a big part synthetic and stuff. It was mix of acoustic and synthetic, so it was like really difficult. And every song was different. So I knew like this is going to happen for each of the songs. And I was like, oh no, I'm not going to go through that. So the entire album is still sitting in my shelf waiting to be mixed for like, I don't know, 8 years, I don't know, something like that. And then I was like learning about mixing, and I realized the people who are mixing are actually doing the same things over and over again. And some of these things are like really tedious, and other things like rely on lots of experience, and so on and so on. So I thought like, okay, I don't believe in automatic mixing. Like one-click mixing is a nonsense in my opinion. Mixing is art, in a way. Like
Sure, yeah.
when you play an instrument, that's one art, and when you are trying to make it sound somehow, the sound itself is another kind of art. So I don't think this would make sense, but I want to first of all make things as easy as possible in the way we don't need to do all the stuff that we do in the beginnings, like setting up gains and shit. Like it should do some rough mix out of the box. You
Right.
just let it analyze a song, and it would do you a rough mix, and then you would actually choose from different mixes done by, say, other people, and the mixes could even be parametric. So they would say like, okay, how many vocals you have, and or do you want to prefer a vocal, or something like that. So stuff like that, and it should like solve collisions between the tracks, like spectral collisions automatically, stuff like that. So there's a lot of it involved in it, and it should definitely not be something like lots of faders and stuff like that. It would incorporate that so that people are actually able to use the traditional workflow. But if you think about it, we are mixing on consoles with some few analog compressors and equalizers for, I don't know, almost 100 years. So, and nothing has changed. Nobody ever thought like, okay, this could be simplified. This could be different. Well, there were a few ideas, but it kind of, ended up covered with dust. And the only kind of case that seemed to survive is this AI mixing, which is okay, I give you tracks, mix it for me, which like just didn't work. It was just changing volumes and shit, because it can't be done like that. I mean, right now I'm into metal music, like the modern metal and stuff, and the processing in there is just
it's a
so
lot.
exhaustive.
Yeah.
Everything is so overprocessed, and if you don't have it in your ear, which you can't unless you are doing it for a long time, then you have no chance. So, and it evolved. That's another thing. The perfect mix isn't quantitatively perfect. It's qualitatively similar to what our ears are used to. So it's something. I think it's quite possible that if there would be a parallel universe where people went through the same styles of music, they may have completely different mixes. It just would happen randomly, and we would listen to their mixes of the exact same music, and we would say like, no, the snare is too low, man. It needs to be so trebly now, and whatnot. Yeah.
I'm curious, with this tool, do you plan to use machine learning in it, or do you plan to have it like completely heuristics and logic based?
Analytic, AI, machine learning. Everyone talks about it now because AI and stuff like that. But people don't understand really what AI is. Essentially, AI is a shortcut. Everything AI does can be done analytically. And if it would be done analytically, it would be much faster, much more efficient. But the problem is some tasks are extremely difficult to make this way analytically, like if else for and shit like that. Just program really like line by line. The typical example where the machine learning started is by like character recognition. If you imagine how many different letter A's are out there, different people writing A. It's like it would be so difficult to program it to just have a bitmap of some sort, like an image, and say, okay, I want to make a program that would say, is it A or is it not? So
Right.
even that would be like really difficult. And the machine learning is really great for this. It's quite possible that it never finds the best solution, but it can find a really efficient solution for this. But the audio is very different. It's there is a reason why almost nothing when it comes to audio is implemented well enough out there. I mean, there is generations of vocals, and right now they are actually really good. Some of them. There is stem separation, and everyone is talking about stem separation. The stem separation sucks. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it does.
It's unusable, man. And they like say, okay, this is like CD quality. You can just change your song and blah blah blah, remix it. You can't. It sucks. Sorry, I just tested like 2 weeks ago or whatever.
It's getting better, I feel like, but it's still it's not up to par yet.
Yeah, it's because I believe the reason for audio itself is that when you have an image and something is not exactly right in the image, you often don't even notice. I mean, the AI generated people with 6 fingers and shit, and most of us didn't notice.
Maybe artists
that's
noticed,
a fucking big thing. I mean, it had 6 fingers, man. So if there is a pixel here and there which is not just right, it's fine. But in audio, if there is just a little tiny difference, we will notice, and
like a
it
slight
will kill
wrong
our
note
ears.
or-
Yeah. And you can work in spectrum domain, you can work in time domain. In both cases, it will suck, like big time. So yeah, and that's exactly what happens. So it's kind of difficult. And at the end, no matter what you do, the complex AIs we have out there right now, they eat so much power, so that environmentally it's just it would be bad to even think that we should make music like that. And we are making music like that. But fortunately, so far, the all music generators I checked were actually made by generating MIDI and mixing it together somehow. At least it looks like it. So I don't think it's like AI in the full sense. Like when you have an image and you really ask, okay, I want a clown with a rocket on his shoulder or whatever, and it makes a clown with a rocket on his shoulder. So nothing like that is happening for audio. And I kind of hope it never will, but it probably will, because my personal expectation is that in 5 years or so, we will have AIs where the producers of mainstream music, I think it will be just mainstream, but producers of mainstream music will be just sitting in front of their computers, clicking a button. It will generate a new song. They will listen to it and say, "Okay, no, I don't like it," and click the button again. And at some point, they will listen to a music which sounds good to them, and they will say, "Okay, this music is mine." And it's a horrible vision for me as a musician. So yeah, but it probably will happen.
Yeah, it seems a little sketchy and scary for sure if that is the case. But yeah, how do you plan to handle? I guess like so you have like Isotope, right? And you throw this on a track and you say analyze my audio. You hit an analyze button. You play the thing, and it goes, okay, I've heard the audio. This is what I think it needs. A lot of the time, I don't think it sounds that good. I feel like there's so much subjectivity to mix downs. So I'm curious, like how you would approach solving that problem of, like you said, it's like mostly going to be a thing to sort of get you started, and then from there you can tweak it and stuff. But
yeah, and Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, we have to talk about it. I'm excited. What's the timeline on it though?
Yeah, but yeah, I wish I knew. I hope as soon as possible because I need it. I need it myself, you know.
Right.
But you know, while developing, I'm actually kind of learning mixing because the thing is, I'm sort of glad that it took me so many years to get to that. Because if it wouldn't, then I wouldn't have such a clear idea of what needs to be done. And it could have been kind of complicated. So right now I'm just, you know, finding out the remaining bits and pieces. It should work, but it all will be analytical. So it will listen to your audio, but the main concept will be that before you actually adapt your mix, then you will have the other mix, which someone else actually did. And it will kind of incorporate what he did, the ideas, into your mix. And hopefully that description it gives more questions than answers, I know. but still. Yeah.
I'm curious if you were able to, like, if you started your journey again in audio plugin development with the knowledge that you have now, what would you do differently?
Everything.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I threw myself in a devil's pit in a way by implementing everything. If I would choose the simple path like FAB filter, it would be so much easier.
But it wouldn't be as cool.
Exactly. In a way, it's good because I kind of found my own island in the world of music because nobody makes things so complicated, so like
Maybe
versatile.
Kilohertz are like maybe kind of getting there, but not quite.
Yeah.
I still feel like Melda goes deeper than everything else for sure.
Yeah. What I would definitely do right now is, but the thing is it now or with my knowledge 20 years ago? Because or my wisdom. That's another thing. Wisdom and knowledge are different things. For instance, right now I have several plugins which do kind of the same thing. Not the same exactly, but they kind of evolved one from each other. And obviously that's a redundancy. So
right. Yeah, you have
that's
like
something I wouldn't do.
freeform EQ and then M auto EQ and then M EQ and like
Yeah.
EQs.
Yeah. I mean, like freeform EQ, that's different. It has a specific thing. And I personally use M autodynamic EQ and M freeform EQ, and that's it. The rest of them, not interested anymore because these do what I need. So,
right. If you had unlimited resources and time, what would you make?
Oh man. I would have to read you my to-do list because there is like 20 plugins that I would like to make. So some ideas for plugins. So, and I cannot tell you because someone else would pick up the idea, and I don't know if I will get to that. And I plan several new colleague of mine, the one who mostly develops the plugins. He is finishing the plugin now. He's making, which basically is, and it's actually kind of silly because it took him like a half a year, and right now Waves finally released their take on the subject. Ours will be like different as usual, but it's the how is it called, the original vocal line.
Oh, vocal line. That's
yeah.
Was that Waves? I thought that was somebody else.
No, it wasn't Waves. It was some special company.
Synchro Arts, I think.
Yeah. And it's so overpriced. It's unbelievable. And it was always so overpriced. And it's still like stuck in very old technologies and shit. So we came up with our take on that. And right when he's finishing it, and there's Waves. So it's funny.
Synchro Arts.
Yeah. So there will be 3 of them now. Oh, never mind, whatever. But after that, I have already some stuff scheduled for him. He's a curious guy, so yeah, he will love it.
For example, with that plugin that you made that aligns vocals, you have M Auto Align already. Did you take some of the parts from M Auto Align to build this new one, or is it kind of built from scratch? Or?
It's completely different because it's 2 different problems, like completely different problems. The M Auto Align, it basically assumes you will have static instruments, static microphones on static instruments, and since they are picking up at different times, it will fix the phases and shit like that. But the thing, it assumes it needs to be static and it needs to be perfect. So you really need one sample accuracy. This one, it doesn't need to be one sample accurate. It cannot be a one sample accurate because these are different performances. So it's like adjusting the timing on the fly, and it doesn't need to be exactly perfect because there's no exact perfection, but it needs to be moving. It's actually quite a cool algorithm the guy came up with. It sounds really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to check that out. When do you think that'll be released?
I think soon. Yeah. Well, I hope. It should have been released months ago. My slaves probably hate me because I always tell them, where is it, man? It should be finished already. But, that's life with me as a boss.
You seem like a pretty jovial guy. You seem like you'd be a good boss.
I hope I'm trying. That's
good.
all I can.
Right.
Hopefully. Who knows? Maybe they are telling behind my back, like, the fucking Melda, he's a fucking motherfucker. I don't want to fucking see him fucking anymore, ever. Yeah. But probably not.
Hopefully
I hope not.
Yeah. Well, I have one last question, which is, do you have any plans or interest in launching an official Melda Discord community or something similar to have fans be able to engage in a single place?
There were ideas about it, but the thing is, we kind of don't have, I would say, manpower to do that. I mean, people can do that, people can discuss and shit, but right now, just KVR is enough. We have to actually do some work. So yeah, that's basically it. The more you work with the customers, the less time you can work for the customers, which is kind of...
It's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming on this podcast. It was a pleasure to chat with you. It was really interesting, and yeah, obviously keep up the good work with Melda. It's amazing shit.
Thanks.